It's a beautiful morning. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of your state. My name is Jadisola Ajibola, and of course this morning I will be starting with the newspaper headlines, stories that made the headlines this morning, and then we'll take you through the weather reports, quotes for the day, and then we switch over to, of course, our interview segment, and we'll wrap it up with sport update. Of course, we'll be starting with the Nigerian Tribune of this morning, and the major story there says, dark day in Borno. All right, with some riders, Brigadier General others, killed in Beni Sheikh military base attack. Troops neutralize cause of insurgents. Tinubu mourns with families, describe fallen soldiers as unforgettable heroes. FG pushes back as U.S. orders embassy employees' families to leave the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Southern Middle Belt leaders, FG too soft on terrorists, call for abolition of Operation Open Corridor. All right, other stories there on the front page. Petrol price may hit 2,000 per litre. TUC wants for FG to subsidize crude, fast-track CNG infrastructure. Around leadership crisis, David Mark-led ADC praised court to reverse INEC decision. NDDC Sun launch vehicle cap to strengthen vehicle safety industrial standard. Nigeria calls on UN to promote fair hydrogen economy. That story is there also this morning on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. We'll go to some inside stories this morning. Sanwo-Olu inaugurates West Africa's largest school city in Ajegunle. Target skills innovation for youth. All right, FG review $200 billion gas power rail project, inaugurates committee. All right, CCB secures first international asset for feature in London. On page 4, SDP chairmanship crisis. Appeal court obtains judgment affirming Sadiq Gombe's leadership. All right, Nigeria too big for one candidate presidency. That's coming from Bode George. APC stakeholders urge leadership to embrace zoning arrangement in Oyo. All right, Mark-led ADC praise Abuja court to reverse INEC decision on a portal. Ekiti APC stakeholders reject planned imposition of reps aspirant. Masari asked APC NWC to rebuff undue pressure. All right, on page 6, you have terrorism. Court sentences 11 Boko Haram members to various jail terms. You are too soft on terrorists, Southern Middle Belt, tells federal government. All right, we'll go to page 8 and 9, and you have there the editorial story, the disappearance of money from DMB customer account. All right, page 11, Promise Ayuba and the Cutlass of Justice. That story is equally there. All right, Gbenga Daniel at 70. Wow, hearty congratulations to him. All right, why Nigeria must link democracy with economic transformation. That's coming from Jonathan. On the Eye of Islam on page 13, Ogun prepares intending Hajj pilgrims with vaccination sensitization program. Oyo MMPN launches Islamic Center project, set stage for stage for economic impact. Muswen mourns as Iya Adini of Ife land, Awofisayo, dies at 102. On page 14, I'll ask a mosque reopen to worshippers after 40 days of closure. All right, U.S. advises nationals to reconsider performing 2026 Hajj. Petrol price may hit 2,000 per litre in coming days. All right, discos generate 204.74 billion naira in January 2026. That's coming from NERC. All right, you also have the story there. Nigeria consumes 1.8 million tons of sugar annually as FG pushes for increased local production. All right, World Bank quotes Nigeria's 2026 growth forecast to 4.1%. All right, marine economy renew under Tinubu rises to 1.83 trillion naira. That's coming from Oyetola. All right, on page 17, Gombe leads another protest to INEC, demand recognition as ADC chair. All right, INEC transfers Osun Rec to Ondo. Wow. Development expert Giwa declares interest in Osun West senatorial seat. Let's go to some other stories. A community now deserted over incessant banditry attack. That's coming from Kwara indigents. Bochi suspends market activity in 4 local governments over bandit attack. And then on the Friday Treat Extra, the economics of BBL in Nigeria, how we are dealing with psychology, hidden charges and consequences. People ask. All right, that story is there on page 19. And we'll come to page 20. I opt for full-time music after retirement from immigration service. That's coming from Osara. And on the travel pros and minds page, Oyebanje champions scenery tourism to boost tourist traffic, job revenue. All right. On page 22, CCII to honor Akume, Buhari, Oloyede, others at Ibadan Festival 2027. Your lawmakers endorse Ogundoyin for governorship pledge to mobilize support. Ogun government confirm Ogunbayo as Odemo of Ishara Remo approves 3 others. All right, on the Vintage Plus page, UCL, Baka will be out for war in Madrid. That's coming from Lukman. Oseme won't return this weekend. That's coming from Gala Coach. You still have other ones there. Team Hussein laments Eagles World Cup absence. And, of course, we can help. Boniface says, Bremen coach. You have the story there titled Contenders, Relegation Haunted Team Face Tricky Trips. How Juju ended my career, Eaglets captain to 2021 World Cup. And of course, you have the gateway visit that lifted the president's spirit. That's also there on page 27. And FG pushes back, okay, as U.S. orders embassy employee families to leave Abuja. Southwest pensioners applaud Makinde, urge other governors to emulate him. Right on page 13, Nigeria records 167 deaths, 663 cases as Lassa fever fatality rate rises. That's coming from NCDC. Plateau killings, UNI just confirmed loss of 2 students, 3 others injured. Governor Makinde drops fresh political hint as he storms Oyo for Sumonu at 67. All right, PDP calls for transparency, cost breakdown of Lagos Commission projects. Development expert Giwa declares interest for Osun West. And of course, on the back page, you have Joshua Fury to clash September, and Liverpool can storm PSG at Anfield. That's coming from Van Jake. All right, those are stories this morning from the Nigerian Tribune. Over to you, Victor, for more stories.
Well, we have the Nation newspaper right here with us, and we have this story. That's on page 3. Boko Haram fighter who killed many sentenced to death. Tinubu mourns heroic fallen soldiers after attack. And on page 4, 2.2 million candidates are set for 2026 UTME April 16. And we have UBA widens youth empowerment with graduate program. That's the story you find on page 7. Well, we have this one from the center spread, and yes, it's Mark-led ADC returns to court after threats and protests. Faction 6 quick hearing, order for recognition. Bala Gumbi leads counter protest. All of that you find on page 2. We have this one as well on page 2. Federal government panel to review $200 billion gas power rail projects proposal. And yeah, interesting stories out there. Now let's flip on to what we have inside the Nation newspaper for today. And we have this one coming from page 3, where opposition parties have lost focus, says Yilwata. And School City inaugurated in Lagos. Okay, flipping on to what we have on page 4 this morning. We have JAM, 2.2 million candidates to write UTME, 900 computer centers from April 16. And board has asked the candidates to print exam slips. Federal government reroutes Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway through Goni land. Oana is Indibu bans Izindibo title outside Igbo land. The coronation of Izindibo in foreign lands is embarrassing, that's what they say. Still on that page 4, NCDC recorded 167 deaths from Lassa fever in first quarter of the year. From there, we talk about the story. We did enforcement of tax law won't be arbitrary. First Lady, Governor's wives are saying we will continue to empower vulnerable Nigerians. Bauchi APC ready to receive Mohammed, says Reps Caucus. On page 5, Ocean 2026 Assembly kicks against redeployment of REC. Abiodun rolls out 40 SUVs for monarchs. Sanwo-Olu's wife challenges parents on moral upbringing. Lagos celebrates pilgrims' return. Ilorin Emirates vows to deliver 1 million block votes in 2027 elections. Ribanji will deal fairly with citizens. Aspirants promises purposeful representation for constituents, and Okpolo seeks early preparation for Hajj. All right, on page 6, we have this one. Appeal court voids ruling affirming Gombe as SDP national chair, and the party says Gombe remains national chairman. Well, of course, there's this one celebrating the Oba Elegushi, and yes, somebody is saying Elegushi has distinguished himself. Tinubu launches enterprise platform for direct government business engagement. You find that on page 7 as it targets reforms, business growth, and $1 trillion economy. Reforms, Nigeria targets $3 trillion from a blue economy. Federal government approves deployment of VPAS at domestic airports. And UPRC interventions attract $24 billion capital investment. And yeah, those are interesting stories that we have on the Nation Business page. And now to page 23, where it's a Friday threat. And yes, we have Gwere Country Club as Nwogo builds tennis pavilion in memory of mother. Marshall plan to revive boxing unveiled. And of course, it's quite a shift. We also have, Deyemi Okonlawo are casted out there. Pasuma pays emotional tributes to Mom on Third Remembrance event. And Burna Boy speaks on his clash with DJ Tunes. And autopsy reveals Destiny Boy died of meth, tramadol abuse, clears Ifayomi Oba Edu. And Edesua Etomi says, my children and the secrets of the multiverse. All right, more interesting stories are actually abound in the dailies this morning. But then, of course, we have Raskimono's daughter issues warning over fraudulent sale of that property. And, well, flip on to polo season, which resumes in May as clubs sharpen for second leg tour. Revealed how Nigeria outbid Australia to host Africa's first Commonwealth Fencing Championship. All right, there are more interesting stories out there, but then let's talk about what we have on other pages. As we flip on to page 48, firm sues NBC for 82.5 million naira over alleged data breach. And of course, the broadcasting houses win at awards. Stable industrial climate key to development, says government. Lawmaker lists gains of ask for more support. Aspirants to contest House of Reps seats. And yes, we have the perils of social media on page 51 here. On page 52, we have this one from the editor's mailbag. How land holds the key to Nigeria's ranching future. And unfounded allegations on Nigeria's democratic future is one of those stories in there. All right, there's quite a number of advertorials this morning. But then on city and crime, DIG CP tour Southern Kaduna rally communities against insecurity. That's on page 57. 7 serial killers arrested in Lagos. Ekwa church attack. Abductors of 8 worshippers slash ransom to 150 million naira. Communities deserted. And there's a man held over a theft of 15 million naira airport equipment. Unijos VC reveals that the school lost 2 students to Jos attacks. Says 1 staff member was affected. Okay, flipping on away from there, let's see if we have one more story. Court acquits businesswoman firm of money laundering charges on page 60. FBRA recovers 2.2 tons of recyclables at Ajegunle Buyback Drive. And yes, indeed, that's as much as we can take on the Nation newspaper. And yes, it's a wrap on the newspaper review segment. So we go on for this short break, and when we return is the weather report.
Welcome back. It's still AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State. Of course, we're now in our interview segment, and this morning we have with us in the studio to do justice to the conversation on the 2027 polls, vote trading, apathy, and party crisis. Professor Babatunde Adegoke, who is a public affairs analyst. You're welcome this morning, Professor.
Good morning, please.
Of course, you would agree with me that the 2027 polls, INEC had fixed 20th of February for presidential and National Assembly election, 6th of March for governorship and state assembly elections. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Ojo Amupiton, had formally released that notice for the election timetable and schedule of activity for 2027 general election in February. Of course, addressing members of the press, INEC chairman had described the announcement as a significant milestone in the nation's democratic journey and a constitutional obligation aimed at consolidating Nigeria's democracy. Of course, according to the commission, the date had been fixed. Also, governorship elections and deputy, except Anambra, Bayelsa, Edo, Ekiti, Imo, Kogi, I beg your pardon, Ondo, and Osun State, governorship elections were to be held in isolation. Amid all of this, we'll be looking at the vote trading, apathy, and party crisis. But of course, I'd like us to begin with party crisis. Because whether we like it or not, for every general election, the party's activity is what leads us into the activity. And so I'd like you to tell us, if you look at where we are, looking at our political parties in Nigeria, it seemed like we had lost it somewhere. Our political ideologies no longer exist. Everyone is doing what they like. Gone are the days where a party would have leaders, and leaders take decisions, constructive decisions on behalf of the party. They do consultation. Now everyone is just doing what they like, and it seems like confusion is everywhere.
Okay, thank you very much. You started by saying we have lost it. Did we ever have it? That's the issue. See, you are talking about ideology. Do our parties operate on the basis of ideology? If they do, then it won't be that easy for me to be in party A today and party B tomorrow. You see, maybe in the early years after independence, when we had just barely two parties, there was something that looks more like ideology. You hardly find somebody from Unity Party moving to another party. But these days, it's so easy for me to move from party A to party B because of this lack of ideology. All the parties are virtually the same. Even though some say we are progressives, we are this and that, it's not like you have in America, for instance, where you have the Democrats and the Republicans. And it's like day and night. The early, cross. I've not heard of it, that somebody will just wake up from being, in fact, when you're a Republican, the old generation of your family, they be Republican. Not that they find their way one day and become Democrat.
Let's look through the evolution of our political sphere now in Nigeria, because you took us all the way back to just after independence, and there are different eras broken by the military takeovers that we had then. What exactly happened to our evolution that's led us to where we are presently? Because it might help us identify how much of a crisis we are in, especially looking at the internal crisis within these political parties.
Unfortunately, the party's democracy was not allowed to grow. The evolution you are talking about, because of those interruptions. So the time is like a child that was supposed to be walking, and suddenly that child gets locked in a room, put on a bed, tied to bed, how would the child learn how to grow, how to walk? So that was what happened to our democracy. You will recall that 1966, there was a coup, then another counter coup and things like that. And we went on like that for about 30 years. Okay? 30 years, if you take the age of Nigeria and you remove 30 years of military growth, military rule. So that would have affected our evolution. So it's like when we started again in 1999, it's like we are just learning all over. It's like we just started all over. But things have changed since independence. You know, immediately after independence, we have notable leaders, recognized leaders. Where Awo speaks in Unity Party, no other person talks. He was the Lord. He has everything. But now, nobody speaks and everybody keeps quiet. So that is there. Then in Nigeria of today, you find out that people are not really interested in serving the people. They're interested in bringing up their own family and the immediate environment. So it makes it so easy. So if I don't get what I want in party A, then I move straight away to party B, since there is no difference between party A and party B. It's not, the parties were not created on the basis of ideology. So it's so easy for anybody. In fact, we are going to see more of this cross-carpeting in the next few months, preceding the election.
Even more than what we have seen.
Yes, because when people lose primaries, when you can't get what you want in one party, then automatically, because of your own ambition, the next is to move to another party. And that's what has been going on.
Okay, I would like us to, because during that military era, I think the very last military era, we had the Nadeco struggle. And I would like us to talk about that because so many people point to the Nadeco as the backbone of what we currently have as Nigeria's democracy presently now. I would like us to look at that era, the individuals involved, the personalities, and how they reshaped everything up until this moment.
We're talking about Nadeco. Yes, we can still recall a few of them that were involved in Nadeco. For instance, I knew Timbu was involved. I knew the SY governor of Ondo State, Fayemi, was there, because I used to listen to their Kudira radio, where they were broadcasting to the country. Now, what changed was immediately after the Nadeco, once Nadeco was able to secure democracy, things changed. The people that took over from the military were not really the people that fought for democracy, which is very, very painful. Maybe things would have been a lot better if those people that were really craving for democracy were the people that took over from the military. Unfortunately, that wasn't what happened. The people that took over, for instance, OBJ was in prison. He came out. In fact, he was opposed to most of the fight against Abacha until the very last minute. And that's when they arrested him and put him away. But they released him, and it was the choice of the people from the north that he should become our next president.
The choice of the people from the north.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you look at the election pitched him against Falai. And if you go and check that result, you will find that Obasanjo did not win in the Southwest, where he comes from. So that tells you that even his own people didn't support him because they saw him as somebody is an outsider. Whereas people like Falai have always been, they were part of the struggle for democracy. When democracy came, it didn't go to the people that fought for democracy.
So do you think that today's political actors are taking a cue from that same Nadeco struggle, especially given that some of them are still key figures in our politics today?
Well, maybe not, because things have changed. Nadeco was like a pressure group, yes. But now we have democracy. So you cannot still be a pressure group while there is government in place. The government that we had during the military era was an aberration. So people wanted that government to go. So, and people were under pressure. People were being, they were going to exile because they are afraid for their lives. You recall that some of them were killed. Riwani was killed. Kudirat was killed. Somebody was killed in Ibadan as well. A lady was killed in Ibadan. I forgot her name. So people were scared of their life, and they were still putting pressure that this is not the right place for Nigeria to be. But right now, we already have democracy. And the only way you can be in government is to contest election and win election. So that's the more reason why our election needs to be credible. So that at the end of the day, we have credible people in government. Unfortunately, we don't normally have what we can call credible election, widely accepted. Maybe not, maybe the election, as far as those people that conduct the election are concerned, the election is credible. But maybe the results are usually contested because an average Nigerian always feels that he cannot lose, he should win.
Okay, and let's look at it. You've talked a lot about political parties, and you talked about ideologies. And you said that in the United States, if someone is in a conservative, the whole family, the whole, keeps following that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't understand ours. The father might be in APC, and the mother chooses to be in PDP.
Yeah, because...
And the children can decide to be in ADC and LP. And you see that in a family, politics are divided or taking over the peace in their home.
Well, I think there are two issues there. The first one is that, well, you don't want to put a family does not want to put all his eggs in one basket. So that if you lose one way, you gain in another way. So if I'm in party A, go to party B, you can go to party C.
Is that being smart or politics?
Well, as far as we are concerned, that's being smart. But then that's, again, shows that there is no ideology. There is no ideology. Because if my dad has an ideology and I grew up with that ideology, you can't find George Bush, the senior in Republican, then you find George Bush, the next George Bush in the Democratic Party, or Democrat, as a Democrat. It's not going to happen because those ideas are passed from early stage in life till when they grow up.
Wow.
Again, you find out that, you see, most of the time when the whites are doing something, they don't just wake up and get into it. I learned that when I was in US. You see, some of us want to do gymnastics, and you start doing gymnastics at age 15. It's already late. All those things that they are practicing, that they are demonstrating, that we think sometimes we used to think is magic. When you take somebody to work on a very thing, and it's even somersaulting on that plan. But when you see those children learning how to falling at age 6 and below, then you know what it takes to get into that. It's the same thing in politics. It's the same thing when they are playing basketball. That's why they can play it so well. I tried it. When I started having neck pain, I stopped. I thought it was easy. But if you go to their houses, what you find that they have this basketball loop for the children. So as they are growing, they are raising the height. So by the time, and because the children are going, they are getting taller. So the height of the loop is raised. So that by the time they get to the age of really playing, they are ready. They know all the intricacies of playing basketball. But like every other thing we do in Nigeria, it's like we just, out of impulse, just say, what else can I do? Let me go into politics.
Okay, that's about that. Let's quickly look at the issue of candidates that political party present. It seems like that's what determines the fate of Nigerians ahead of the elections. And I don't know where we're going this time around. Because, I mean, if we're still buying form at 40 million, I don't know how many people will be able to afford it, even though many will actually buy it.
Oh, of course, they will buy it.
Like we had in the last election. But the kind of candidate they present before us determines our fate. How do we correct these abnormalities?
Well, ordinarily, it shouldn't be the party that determines our fate. Ordinarily. If party A brings a candidate that you feel is not competent, then you don't vote for him. But unfortunately in Nigeria, most of the time, we don't actually vote for the individual. We vote for parties. Because on the day of the election, what we find there will be the logo of the parties. So because I'm supporting this party, any candidate that party brings up, automatically I vote for that party, even when I don't believe in that individual. Maybe through previous interaction, I know that this man is not competent to occupy that position. So it's either I go out there and vote for him, the party's choice, or I stay away from, which may eventually also lead some people to say, well, since you have chosen the wrong person, I won't even be part of that election.
Which raises questions about voter apathy now. The last election had the lowest turnout, and we saw the numbers brought up by, the presidential candidate, the top three, that is now. And you would agree with me that a lot more people are still having reservations about going out to vote. What exactly, I know you mentioned just one now, but what exactly are the other reasons that we need to be looking at and correcting from now? Maybe it's INEC that needs to correct, maybe it's the political parties that need to work on some things, maybe it is us, the voters, that need to also speak to ourselves. What are the things that we should be watching out for, that we should have learnt as lessons?
The first thing there is the parties. I don't think it should be INEC's responsibility to bring out people to vote. INEC responsibility is to conduct election. Yes. And if out of, you are expecting 1,000 people to vote, and only 100 comes out to vote, at the end of the day, there will still be a winner. So that's the role of INEC. But it is the responsibility of the parties to encourage people to come out to vote.
All right, before we go on from there, let's take this commercial break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the responsibility of the parties in ensuring that we reduce voter apathy.
All right, everyone, no put your ears, make we talk. Time don't reach to rearrange this house to give us small wisdom. Sounds mighty fresh now, but you know, I beg no be so. Before I go talk, say our smile no reach. Make that think I'm try so. Ever heard of Colgate, the #1 oral care brand in the world?
Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection unlocks 24 hours cavity defense. The front boost with calcium for lightning smiles.
Mom, it's a time to brush. No more for my cover mouth.
Colgate for 24 hours maximum cavity protection.
Very much for sticking around with us. We're still talking about the 2027 polls, and yes, it's conversations about vote trading, voter apathy, and parties crisis with Professor Babatunde Adegoke, who is a public affairs analyst. And we were on to the conversation part where we're talking about the political parties and voter apathy, how they actually can work their way around it.
Yes, I was just saying that it's not the responsibility of INEC to bring out people to vote. If I want to go into a position and I know that position is to be contested, it is for me to go and appeal to people to come out to vote for me. But you see, again, because most of the time, they know that people vote on the party, on the basis of which party you are. We are in this area, and we don't vote for we don't vote for party A. We always vote for party B. So whatever party A brings out, we become the next person to occupy that position. I think that has to change, all right? But if I already believe that parties will only may bring out anybody. If they bring out anybody that I'm not satisfied with, then I stay away from the election, all right? So that is part of the apathy that we are talking about. So some people will stay away because they don't even know who is contesting. There are many times when the man contesting to be your representative in the House of Assembly, in the Senate, or whatever, in your area, you've never even come across that person. He has never campaigned in your area. So, and they want you to vote for that person. And you know that because the party is popular, at the end of the day, the man is still going to win the election. So why do I have to bother myself to come out? I can as well stay indoors and enjoy my day, since it is usually a public holiday anyway. Even if we are supposed to go to work, when we are voting, everybody stays at home.
Okay.
Well, how about the area of how the electoral process goes? Maybe it leads to that as well. The trust in, for example, at the last elections, there were questions about the beavers, the technology and how they will get to use the equipment, network or no network, all of those things came in, and people wanted real-time transmissions, but it just wasn't there. We still have questions abounding about it presently. Don't you think that also affects in a way?
Yes, that could have affected, but I think the premise on which we base this voters apathy, are we even sure we are in the right track? The years we were talking about, the years when we said the voters participation was a bit high, were we sure we were counting re-votes? Those were the years when they will stop the ballot boxes. So at the end of the day, I was on another program and I was saying that I witnessed something when Falai was contesting against Obasanjo at Islamic High School here. The turnout was poor. So at the end of the day, some of us were just gisting with the polling officer. We were right there. And between them, the one for PDP and the other one, I think Falai was AD. They agreed between themselves that we thumbprint. The ballot papers were there. So they were just thumbprinting 10 for party A, 5 for party B, and they now put in the ballot box. So at the end of the day, we are now going to say the voters' turnout was this, based on the number of ballot papers that we have. But is that right?
Okay.
But these days now, that cannot happen. So that's why we are now seeing this one, that we are saying, oh, there's voters' apathy. Maybe it is now that we are now really seeing the people voting. Before now, it could have been good. If I recall that the election...
It could have been good?
Yes. The election in Osun State that brought Aregbesola, it was contested to the Supreme Court. And when they checked the ballot papers, they found out that some of those ballot papers were thumbprinted using the hooves of goat.
Okay, let's not go there.
So at the end of the day, we're now going to say, oh, in Osun State, 90% of the people came out to vote. Were we really counting the real votes, or we are counting something else?
Okay, let's look at the modalities that takes us into the election. And I'd like us to look at some issues. People go to get their voters card, permanent voters card. Mm-hmm. You'd agree with me that in those days, when I was younger, our parents were mandated to collect. Because while we were going to public school, these were things that when government says, go and do this, you must present those cards. You don't have it, you are more like not a citizen of Nigeria, and you not get dividend of so many things. But it's not like that now. It's just for possible means of identification that people use it for. Now, do we say that people collect PVC for other reasons and not for electoral reasons? Because if there is so much of voters' apathy, it means people are not going to vote. They're just collecting the cards. And INEC still laments and says a lot of voters' cards are lying there. People are not picking them up. So why are people going to register for voters' card without using the cards to vote? During the last election, I got to the polling center 5 minutes to 2 o'clock because I was determined to vote. So that's about patriotism. So, I mean, that's the area I want us to look at. Reasons why people collect cards.
Well, you mentioned it yourself that maybe some people just use the voter's card as a means of identification. At least it's at the government imprint. So if I get to the bank and they say, please identify yourself, if I have my voter's card, I can always bring it out. Not necessarily because I didn't register because I had intention of voting. And it doesn't matter who contests, I'm still not going to vote. So there are a lot of people with that kind of frame mind. And I don't think there's anything that anybody can do to force you to leave your house to go and vote. Of course, they will campaign, there'll be jingles, be a good citizen, go out to vote. But if you choose not to be a good citizen, can anybody penalize you? No. So the issue is this. Maybe election meant more to people in the olden days. Now, people are not too interested in the election. But at the end of the day, when the results are out, and somebody that they didn't expect to win eventually wins, then the complaint starts right from that day. But when you choose not to go and vote, then you are allowing the wrong person to win. So you must go out so that your candidate can win.
Prof, let's speak to a certain area now. I remember the last elections. In some certain areas, we had people counting the votes. They even turned it into a skit, a meme, 73, 74, waiting to count with the polling officers. Yeah. Whereas in some other areas, people did not go out. In fact, some ran away because there were threats before that happened. Do you think that those threats have reduced? Do you think that the waves of violence, the stealing of ballot boxes and all of that have reduced enough for people to say, okay, maybe we can, because I remember there are some areas where we saw a lot of people also on social media in the last elections coming out to say, this is video evidence. We could not vote in our areas because this and these people stopped us from coming in here because they think we are affiliated to this particular party. And, you know, these are pointers to reasons why some people would not want to come outside because they will feel, why should I come outside when I'm being threatened? Are there ways to work around this? Is there a decrease now? Is there something that we should be telling ourselves on that?
Definitely, I believe there's a decrease in election violence. Because even these days, how many times during the last election did you hear somebody going to snatch ballot box? What will you do with the ballot box? If you snatch it, to what end? Because at the end of the day, they are still going to correlate the number of ballot papers with what BCOS has already captured. So if there's a disparity, then there's a problem. So we know that whatever result is presented at that polling booth reflects the wish of the people. So to that extent, we see that the violence is reducing. But we also know that in Nigeria, even if you compare the election in Nigeria to Ghana, in Ghana, they don't declare public holidays because they want to vote. As close as Ghana is to us, in fact, they vote on ordinary days. And when you finish voting, you go back to your place of work because you know you don't need to be there to witness the counting. This one that you are is just because I was there. I voted at Bashoron Ojo, and everybody will say 1, 2, 3. You are counting along with them because we don't trust each other. We don't trust each other. Even with that, at the end of the day, some people will still say between point A and point B, something has been altered, even when they don't have any evidence. I think Nigerians are generally bad losers. Even when you know you have lost clearly, you don't want to accept it. You want to find an excuse, look for a scapegoat, and usually it's INEC that is the scapegoat.
Okay, let's look at, because whether we like it or not, voter apathy and vote trading go side by side. Political parties want to bring more people on board to vote, so they try to bring up incentives that would encourage them to come out. I could remember that way back when I was growing up, during elections, even when I was not old enough to cast my votes, we knew there was going to be elections, so we stayed in front of our houses. You are even advised not to go to the street to avoid violence. But we don't see our parents going to vote and coming back with cups of rice or even gari. The ones that can happen at the polling unit is if there's any need for delay. You see maybe somebody sponsoring, buying drinks or what, not even drinks, water for people, pure water. I'm sorry, ice water in those days. Now, today we see people going out, coming back smiling. How can we curb vote trading?
Well, in a country with high level of poverty, and when people believe that the only thing they can get from government is what they get before the election, before they are voting, then it is quite difficult to curb vote buying simply by preaching it. The only way to curb vote buying is to punish those who are involved. But how many people have been punished? Even when you hear so much about people being caught, even given cash on the day of the election, that's the last we are going to hear about it. Nothing gets done thereafter. So that itself is an issue. You see, you can't make a law and you have no means of enforcing the law. A law that is not enforced is as useless as having no law. So that is part of the problem we are having as a society. There's poverty, so people want anything they can get. That this is the only thing. If the next 4 years I'm prepared that I'm not going to get anything from this man that is coming in. Because at the end of the day, if you are a member of the House of Assembly, how many times am I going to see you in my area in the next 4 years after you have been inaugurated? I'm not going to see you again. Even if I saw you before you get, in fact, in many instances, I've never seen you anyway. So the only opportunity for me to have contact with you will be during the election. And now what they are doing is they are getting smarter. You recall that what happened in Ogun State. Somebody even printed something that looked like Richard card. And that's for you. You go and cash it. That's your money. So it's not as if they are distributing money openly or they already transfer money into your account before the election. So it's getting more and more sophisticated so that people, those people involved can hardly be caught. It's just those people that see as the rudimentary state.
Can you actually exempt any political party from vote trading?
No. They are all involved. It's like when we are talking about rigging in those days. Rigging involves all the parties. But when you rig in an area where you are weak, that's where they are trouble. If a party is strong, like I told you something that I witnessed now, because the people in this area, we supported Falaye. So when I say 10 for party A, you should imagine who was getting 10. It was Falaye who was getting 10, and Obasanjo was getting 5. And I want to believe that that's what happened in other polling units. And at the end of the day, those are the votes we are going to count. So when Falaye came out and said it was rigged, I started laughing. I was looking at people, I said, look, I witnessed what happened at my own.
But was it not rigged? It was rigged.
Yes, that it was rigged out. He rigged where he was wrong. They rigged for him where he was wrong.
That's the point. Everybody rigs where they're strong.
Yeah, they rigged for him where he was wrong. and the other guy rigged where he was wrong. So at the end of the day, rigging at balance rigging, and we have a winner.
Okay, so now ahead of 2027, the way you see events unfolding, what comes to your mind about the 2027 general election? Generally.
Well, if you listen, if you are paying attention to politicians, you think maybe heaven will fall and things like that. But nothing like that is going to happen. We are going to have an election, and a winner will emerge, and there'll be some noise as usual. We'll go to the Supreme Court, and at the end of the day, even those people that don't have any case at all, they go as far as Supreme Court. And at the end of the day, the winner will remain. So we cannot judge the mood of the nation by what the politicians are doing. Politicians are attention seekers. Even when nothing is wrong, they want to tell the people that something is wrong. 2 days ago, some people were at the INEC office. Doing what? You went to a house, sent out all the owners of the house, except one person. So if you want to buy my house, our family house, and all my siblings agree, and I say I don't agree, shouldn't you have a way of bringing me in so that I be on your side? But you feel you can neglect me. And that individual went to court. So what are we talking about? But instead of appreciating the situation, what are they talking about? Oh, that is because INEC doesn't like our party. It's because this party is engineering the downfall of our party. But that is not the situation. That's the narration they want us to believe. But that doesn't mean that's the reality. I think 2027, we are still going to have situations like we've had before. There will be election, the result will be contested, and at the end of the day, we move on.
Okay, so how can INEC do an overhaul of the voters register so that we even know how many, electorates are alive?
I think I saw something like that they said there'll be revalidation of voters, something that they've not done for quite some time. They also know that some people might have died, and that whatever number of voters that we say we have may not be correct. And since then, some other people who are not of voting age, they have come of age. So they know they are going to review that. And I think there's a process. I think I saw something like middle of this month that they are going to start that. So if only people will make attempt to revalidate their voters card. Because what happens in many instances, even in Ibadan as of today, there are still many people without NIN, if they know, even though we have been told that NIN is important.
Okay. All right, I want to sincerely appreciate our own Professor Babatunde Adegoke, who is a public affairs analyst, for, of course, sharing with us his views on 2027 polls, vote trading, apathy, and party crisis. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, our second guest is waiting. Don't go away, stay with us. All right, welcome back. It's still AM120 on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State. Of course, we've been discussing on 2027 polls, vote trading, apathy, and political parties crisis. And our new guest, the second guest here this morning, is Barrister Sharafuddin Sani, Esquire. Of course, is a legal luminary, and he's one of our most exceptional guests on this program. You're welcome this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yes, we're talking about 2027 polls, and our first guest said so many things about the election. Yes, the election will hold, that there will be apathy. He said it might continue because of the technology that has been brought forward. Political party crisis, more of moving here and there, this season. And he also talked about vote trading. Of course, that has been strengthened by poverty and, of course, lack of or inability of politicians to deliver on their promises. However, what's your take on the issue of 2027 polls? What do you think we're going to do differently in this coming election?
Let me answer your last question, then move to the first one. There's not going to be anything different.
Even with the new INEC chairman?
There's not going to be anything different, except if you want to deceive ourselves.
Why?
He is not a miracle worker. He's not a miracle worker. Yes, he's going to do his best, and we're going to have it as we used to have it before, except when the voters decide to, because the fate is in their hands to use it. When they decide to use their fate to their vote to determine their fate, and at the end of the gate get the results they want. We put more emphasis on this statutory body that conducts the election, rather than the awareness we need on our side as voters. So when you put such heavy load on them, they will only work within the confine of the electoral law, not outside it. Work within the confine of the electoral law, deliver all the deliverables from their side. And now we are now left with the politicians who are presenting themselves, or the contestants who are presenting themselves for offices, the politicians who are more or less like the platform upon which these people are contesting. We also have on the other side is the side of the voters. So if you have 3 or 4 essential pillars to hold the structure, and one of the pillar is well built and strong and ready to go by the specifications, and the others are shaky, and definitely you will keep having the results you've been having all along.
Okay. Now, that's about the 2027 election, and you said there might be nothing different from the usual.
Based on what I've said.
Based on what you've said. And now let's look at what we call vote trading, buying and selling of votes. Who would you blame for this buying and selling that we have seen over time, that was being polished by one politician who called it stomach infrastructure some years ago in one of the southwest states?
Thank you very much. If you want me to, it's not a good thing. Let us start with that. It's not a good thing, and it will not in any way advance the real democracy we want. You're not going to get it right. You're going to determine it's like cheating in an exam, buying papers before the exam. It's not going to help us. That's number one. Number two, if it's not going to help us, the next thing we need to consider is where is the problem? Or where did the problem come from? The problem is in 3 folds if we are to prorate it on 100%. I give 10% to the statutory body that is conducting the election, INEC. I will give 60% to voters. and I will also give the remaining 30%. No, sorry, 50% to voters, 30% to politicians, and the last 10% to our law enforcement agencies. If you allow me, I'll break it down in this sequence. For the statutory body, which is INEC that conducts the election, you have a prohibition in that. You have a provision in that law which prohibits vote buying and selling, that vote trading. You have a provision for that. But the question is this: INEC is not the enforcement agent to enforce that law. Theirs is to prohibit such acts. You have the enforcement agent, you have the police, and you have the executive to direct the police, even if the police doesn't want to do that. So that is why you see the 10% of INEC and 10% of the DC.
But in areas where they call it mobilization, use words like mobilization.
That is where I'm coming to, sir. Like the one we have in Anambra, and like the one we have in 2014 stomach infrastructures, which they say. That is when I now move down to, politicians, I said 30%. And they're looking for a way to probably brand it and make it presentable. And that is why they branded it as mobilizations, infrastructures. And in Anambra the other day, our own respected Soludo said mobilization when he announced that every local government, every region will get 1 million naira before the election. And he said it's mobilization. It is not. If you vote, you come out, or you vote for this particular, you get 1 million naira. And you call it mobilization, not trading. Also, that's why I said the 30% goes to politicians. They are the ones that impoverish the masses to this level. Are you getting me? They are the ones that improve the masses to this level. And they are coming up again to say that, okay, we put you in here. We are the only one that will take you out. And this is how we want to take you out. It's like bringing in a pet into your house. You put the pet there. You don't allow the pet to go out, to stray around, to go and look for what he will eat. You don't give him food. You don't give him water. You now come back and say that, okay, if you want me to feed you, okay, sorry, I have assignment for you. Go and attack this person, and I will give you this. You call it mobilization. The pets, as a survival instinct or opportunity or window, would definitely attack such a person for the purpose of getting what they want.
Okay, I'd like to bring this to you. EFCC actually arrested 20 people for suspected electoral fraud in FCT council poll, the last FCT polls that were held. Okay, operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Saturday, February 21st, 2026, arrested 20 suspects for sundry electoral offenses in the just concluded FCT local government elections. The suspects were arrested across FCT for offenses ranging from vote buying, vote selling, to obstruction of officers in the tune of 17,218,700 naira only. And of course, one of the suspects was arrested with a sum of 13,500,000 naira in a car parked beside a polling booth in the Kuali local government area. 2 of the suspects was arrested in Abaji, 9 in Gwagwalada, 4 in Kuje, and the remaining 4 in Kuali. I look at the sums of money for local government polls, and I'm afraid someone is spending this much. Let's assume all of this money is the 13 million, the 17. You're giving me a total of about 20, close to 30 million naira for local government polls. So what will this local government executive or chairman do when he gets into office? He wants to recoup this money back. If it was a bank loan, he wants to pay back. So what kind of danger does this portend to our democracy?
That is why I said, moving forward to 2027, we're not going to have any different. And I broke it down to how and why we were not going to have it. Politicians are bringing out money to buy our votes. We are collecting that money.
Where are they seeing the money in this hard shape?
No, I will want to disagree with you with that question. Who is in control of this finance we are talking about? Politicians. And you have politicians in government. Let us take a look at 2023 election. They changed money at the last minute, thinking that that is the best way to control. And when they said to control vote buying and this and that, they changed it. At the end of the day, look at the humongous amount of money spent by the politician on 2027 election. You are asking people who is in control of something, where is the money coming from? You also answer it by saying, if they get this from banks as a loan, or they are able to do this as this, they are able to do. I will not want to agree with you that there's no money in the economy. It may be a bit scarce. And when you say it is scarce, that means it's majorly or bigly in the custody of some few people. That is why it is scarce.
Okay.
It is these few people that control the government we are talking about. So this money will come out when they want to use it.
On Wednesday, we had a guest, and we had a similar conversation. And during the conversation, he mentioned something that I would like us to look at. It looks like you've been looking at a different POV. He said the people themselves are waiting for the mobilization monies. They said the people themselves are waiting for it. So what that means is that people themselves know it's election period and it is time for them to cash out.
Check the checklist of what I said. I said 30% goes to voters. And that promotes a party, promotes any forms of change, positive change or negative change you want. Your guess is correct, 100% correct. And that goes a long way in saying that we have lost our values.
We?
Yes, we. When I say we, I make a collective terms in this sense that, well, I'm a voter too. I'm a Nigerian too. And I vote based on my conscience. Some people will not vote based on their conscience, just like what you said, that, yes, they are waiting for it. They are waiting for it because we have this mental view. The people have this mental view that, politicians, yes, they have the money, they don't know where they get it from.
And we're expecting roads to be constructed.
Thank
we're
you.
Expecting hospitals.
That is what I'm saying.
We're expecting infrastructure.
That is what I'm saying.
Development.
Now. That is what I'm saying. Now, why do you think that some of these people within the confine of power, where is National Orientation Agency?
When are we going to start sensitizing ourselves away from the National Orientation Agency?
Let me not tell you.
We have traditional leaders, religious leaders.
Let me not tell you, the so-called traditional rulers we are talking about now are the same set of people that take that money, the cash out you are talking about, they take the bigger part of it and spread out the remaining to the people on the streets. Who was in the confine of that 13-point-something million naira? You're talking about 17-point-something. It was given to somebody. And I assure you, whoever that gave her that money would have given her 50 million naira. Somebody will come take 20 million naira. Another person, the next person in line will take 5 million and say, okay, go and distribute this remaining to the hungry people outside there.
Do you have confidence in EFCC to prosecute such person?
Yes,
and
the
bring them
prosecution.
to
No, the prosecution is on. That I can assure you, the prosecution is on. But it is not everything they put in the face of newspaper because face of medias and the rest. And that is why our that is why our non-governmental organizations need to go on monitor such thing.
Now, how come it took EFCC so long
To
start arresting and prosecuting people? If you agree with me, I remember that the year this SOMAC infrastructure thing started, you're talking about maybe about 10 years ago.
Yes.
Or more.
Yes.
If we had started prosecution from that time, maybe we would have been able to cop it.
And let me now give you, if you don't have standard rule or basic rule to work with, Electoral Act was just...
How long should it take us to do that?
The Electoral Act was just amended. They have to criminalize that act before EFCC step in to arrest based on this as a prosecuting channel.
So who do we blame for the delay? Because, it was delayed.
We blame all of us.
Who? Why?
You,
How?
everybody. Let me tell you something. You are concerned about this, and that was why you asked me to come and speak here. You are concerned about it. You are concerned about it that we are going on the wrong directive to achieving our positive democracy we want. That is why you invited me to talk on this thing. If you have been doing this long before now,
and trust me, we have been talking about
it. If you have been talking about it, then one of these days, this is coming up now. You see, these law enforcement agencies we are looking at now. Sometimes they are under, yes, you may say in the face of it or by their provision that yes, okay, they are independent. Their independence is not 100%. It is not. Because if you want to prosecute, boys will go on ground now and try to take intelligence and this thing before they want to work with their organ somewhere. Who has connection somewhere will say, please don't go there. Go on to another one. Let us look at Chibok. Let us look at some of these attacks we have. We later discovered that there was an information before then, intelligence before then that please and please this will happen. And nobody worked on the intelligence. Nobody.
Let's look at voters' apathy.
Yes.
If we're going by the cost of fuel that we have today,
yes,
it will be worse during the 2027 election.
I disagree with you.
There are reports in the papers today that
I disagree with you.
a TUC had warned that if we're not careful, the price of fuel will go to 2,000 naira per litre.
Even if it goes to 1 million naira.
People whose houses are far away from their polling unit, who will naturally struggle to get there initially, trust me, may not go to the polling unit.
Yeah.
Because I'll ask myself, if I have to drive down or take transport to go to the location where I'm supposed to vote, I'd rather stay in my house and use my money to feed. Because I'm not even sure that there will be dividend of democracy in the end.
You want me to answer that?
Please do.
Thank you very much. That means you still have your value. That means you still think right. That means you would still want changes to be, things to be better in this country. That is why you are sitting here. That is why we are making this discussion. This discussion we are doing now, some people out there will tell you that what is happening with them, they are wasting their time. It is because you have your value. Let me tell you this. When there was this cash restriction, the last election, we have the view that nobody will come out. We have the view that is, and some days to the election, from nowhere, cash was released. You want to deal with people that are in control of these things we are talking about. They will release the leash. It's like a dog. They will release the leash within that is and make, okay, we've been talking for a very long time now. Power shortage, national grid breaking down. Do you remember that? Can you pick up this, that in the past a week and a half, there's been serious improvements in power? Because people came out, they're crying. And they're of the view that if this is not addressed now, it will affect the chances of whoever that wants to do whatever. The power we are using now, That they are crying that national grid, we are holding this, we are holding. Where was that power then? That is what I'm trying to tell you now, that where these people that has the control in their hand. When the right time comes, politicians, I'm talking about politicians generally, when the right time comes, they will see what they can do about it. They will just come by 6 months to the election and they will just tell you that, well, we observed that this, we observed that this, we observed that this, and we are giving energy car, we are giving energy buses out for this. Where was all these things before now?
So you're saying that they know that these things can be worked upon?
Yes.
Can be given to
Yes.
people?
Yes.
But they are, how would I put it now? Like someone said, pauperizing.
No, they are just strategizing.
They
want.
It's not pauperizing them.
No, they are just strategizing. They want you to.
Okay, it's just the strategy is to make people go as paupers.
No, not as paupers. To make them demand. Serious demand. When you demanded for lights, you have jingles going around the Okukubrimu, the this, and within a week or two, there's serious improvement in light.
So did the people have to demand?
Ordinarily, they are not supposed to demand. Ordinarily, because you pay your taxes, you do the needful. It is the government responsibility to do it. But they're not doing it. They're also directing the investment. They're also directing in building, instead of building human capital, they're building physical structures. They know that when they build these physical structures, they will call all of you to come. We want to open this, we want to open that, we want to do this, we want to do that. And you will go there, you attend. People, they will take it to the outside world. People will see that, yes, they still have, we all still have, we still believe in them. But if you build human capital, you know you are building it bit by bit, and you are building it quietly. That will not sell any product. So if I tell you that it is strategy, it is very strategical. When you cried so much for light came from nowhere.
Because of our time, let's quickly look at political parties, their role in 2027 election.
Okay.
What do you think the political parties will give us this time? Looking at the crisis.
We have to talk first about the internal crisis disturbing all
yes,
these parties.
that's what
ADC
I'm saying.
is in the news today. Before that, it was PDP all over.
Yes. So if you look at the challenges, that is facing them as we speak, they are loggerheads. It seems like we're going to end up with one party ahead of 2027 polls.
If you want me to tell you that you're not going to end up with one party.
It seems like.
No, I'm coming. You're not going to end up with one party. You're also going to you are only going to end up with a mega party fighting against little parties. And that gives you a direct shot to the presidency. That is number one to answer the general question based on our time. The other one is this. PDP, ADC, the crisis they are having now is self-inflicted. It was on this seat sometime last year that this same question was posed to me by one of your uncalled person on the issue of PDP. And I told that person, no, sorry, it was on the other side there. And I told we were on the platform with one of the PDP listening, and he was making a hell of this and that and that. And I said, come, listen, let us be legal. And this is where we're going to go to the end of the day. I'll tell you the smart moves made by the key actor in the other party. But I'll tell you, because he's a lawyer, and he knows where, and he understands how to play you. Now, PDP the other time, you have a substantive judgment, main judgment. And you have another interim order. You're not going with another mini interim order again to go and hold the election. What happened at the end of the day? The Amala Convention, everything crashed. Money spent, people's time wasted. Instead of what you need to do then, that is what you are doing now. That's on PDP. They are coming back to talk what they need to do now. Look at the time and the money.
You think they're going to resolve their issues?
If they are not going to resolve it, it is better for the so-called mega party we are talking about now, who is in power. It is better. And let me tell you, they will not pray that they resolve it. The prayers will be, don't resolve it, because that is one of the jokers, political jokers. That's what dating things they do in their feet. Let us come to ADC. ADC. There's a structure. There's a political party. You believe that political party is not capable, is not functioning, but these people work so well to meet the minimum standard of INEC, to be in existence for its very children. You, the mega party, they call it coalition, it's not coalition, let me tell you. It is individual migration. Because when you talk about coalition is what you have with APC, they did this thing during CPC, that's what you call coalition. This is just mega movement. Individuals coming from this thing to come. Now, those individuals came in, they hijacked a structure that has been in place before. The platform. You came in, there's this electoral thing that you must be in a political party. Not less than 1 year for you to occupy a political post. And you just came in and said, okay, fine, and you took over the structure. You bought over the structure. And one of them went to court and said, okay, I file interim injunction, I file interlocutory injunction. Now, when he went for his interim injunction, the court said, no, go and serve these people. Let them come, let me hear you. Instead of them, and the chairman, the so-called chairman of that party, David Mark, instead of them to go back and sort out that issue, then appear, they went to the Court of Appeal. I wonder who was the lawyer that advised them. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put professionalism of anybody into contention or into repute, but I wonder, go there. You still have enough time. Ask for accelerated hearing. They didn't do that now. They went and they got to Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal said no, but now they have limited time. And they are now crying foul. Crying, I don't know, demonstrating on the streets, exhibiting their non-entity.
In the coming days.
And I'm coming. You are not saying a political party is killing you. Why wouldn't they kill you? Why? You have violated so many procedural rules in putting that structure in place.
In the coming days.
Yes.
Do you think PDP will resolve the crisis within the party?
It is better for them to resolve it.
In the coming
days.
They
still have their windows. Let me tell you. They still have their windows going by the law. It is better for them to resolve it. But if they don't resolve it, they still want to go to the Supreme Court, which they have filed their appeal to the Supreme Court. They will come back crippled and handicapped.
In the coming days, do you think APC will still remain as strong as it is?
It will.
Because so many people running there will not get tickets.
It will.
How will they manage?
Let me tell you, you can run from anywhere to anywhere, but politicians know how to do their things. If you run to contest for governor and you don't get governor, they'll give you ministerial appointments.
So it's still being
They'll give you the... You see, these people, they know how to do their thing. And you, if you are not a politician, I'm a technocrat, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman, I'm a lawyer. Call me when you listen. I will be there, just pay me my money. But what I'm saying is this. Politicians know how to do their stuff. How can you migrate from a political party, stand here instead of you to resolve your thing, and you migrate to a less one, come back here and take over? Can anybody come in and go and take over your structure in your political party?
All right, on this note, Barrister Sharafa Sani, Esquire, we want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Of course, a legal luminary par excellence. Thank you for sharing with us from your wealth of knowledge. On behalf of our producers and crew member, we say a big thank you to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, it will be sport updates. Stay with us. Don't go away.